Daniel Sports Central, we go for a college football game preview and prediction on the 2023 Birmingham Bowl matchup between the Troy Trojans and the Duke Blue Devils. Two teams that have had great seasons getting to this point. You got Troy. This is a team that started the season 1-2, but ever since then, this team has been brutal to beat as they take on Duke, one of the top teams in the ACC this season. Blue Devils went 7-5 this season. I mean, after a really promising start, things kind of were bumpy down the stretch for the Blue Devils, but this is still a talented team for sure. We'll be going over a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today. Let's get started with your team trends. Troy beat App State 49-23 to win the Sun Belt Championship. Wasn't even close, and Troy was dominant in that game. Once again, this team has really been impressive the past month or so, and really ever since their 1-2 start, this team really clicked, and they have found a way this season to get up to 11 wins on a 10-game winning streak. And as for Duke, a little bit different than Troy this season. They started the season really strong. First half of the season, they were looking like a true ACC contender. After their 4-0 start, honestly, you could have argued Duke to be right up there as the best team in the ACC. Florida State was already there, but Duke was up there as well until, of course, some injuries happened, and especially Riley Leonard being out the last few games of the season, I do think had a significant impact on this offense. But their defense also was an issue at points this season as well, so you can't forget about that. But Blue Devils finished out 7-5, beat Pitt 30-19 to finish out the regular season. So, but this is a team that has only won 2 of their past 6. They were 2-4 in their last 6 games, so not quite as much momentum heading into this matchup than, say, Troy. But games beyond Saturday, the 23rd in Birmingham. Kickoff is noon Eastern. Spread's going Troy by 8 here, so Trojans are a heavy favorite in this matchup, which honestly, that's not really what surprises me. It's the fact that the FPI disagrees with the spread so much, going on Duke's side 57%. Over under 44.5. You look at the bowl history for both teams. Really, in recent memory, when both teams have been in bowl games, they've been pretty successful. Troy's won their past 5. Duke has won their past 4, and Duke especially has been pretty dominant in their recent bowl games. Last season, Troy was in it would have been the Cure Bowl against UTSA, beat them 18-12. And as for Duke, last season they beat up UCF in the Military Bowl. Stat comparison: Troy is 45th in points per game, 6th in points allowed. A pretty strong defensive team here out of Troy, but obviously it goes on both sides. This is a team that's been dominant defensively down the stretch, but this offense has really found a way as well, and they found a way to be dominant in both the rushing game and the passing game. You got Gunnar Watson, who's been really impressive this season, 27 touchdowns, over 5 picks. He's thrown for over 3,300 yards. I feel like he deserves a bit more attention for what he's done with this team, and you can't forget about Kamani Vital, who's been incredible as well in the backfield. 1,600 yards and 14 touchdowns on him this season. And you look at the defense once again, they're impressive in both pass defense and rush defense, and so this is a pretty complete team here in Troy. As for Duke, 62nd in points per game. They are 22nd in points allowed. So, but I will say this, I mean, they are pretty high up there in terms of points allowed, but I mean, their defense was much stronger in the first half of the season. They allowed only 3 to NC State. You look at the first half of the schedule, they allowed 7 to 3 teams, 7 or under to 4 teams in their first 6 games. But you look at down the stretch, they allowed 38 to Florida State, and then 47 to North Carolina, even 30 against Virginia back in the second to last week of the regular season. So this defense hasn't been quite as good later on in the season. That kind of goes for the offense as well. But of course, the offense has had to deal with injuries, and so that's, I mean, this is a Duke team that just simply has kind of fallen off over the course of the season. Of course, it doesn't help either. Riley Leonard is, I mean, he hasn't really played much in the second half of the season anyway because of his injuries, but I mean, he's already off to Notre Dame anyway, so he's gone. Jordan Waters is gone. That's more significant to me because this backfield could have a tough time not having their lead back in there with Waters already in the transfer portal. And I mean, so there's a lot of factors here for Duke, most of them negative, and honestly, it's totally the opposite for Troy, being a team that has a lot of positives to them for sure. Your recent matchups: Troy, they beat App State 49-23, took care of Southern Miss, beat Louisiana by a touchdown, took care of ULM, and then obviously beat South Alabama 20-10 back in early November. You look at Duke on the flip side, beat Pitt by 11, lost to Virginia by 3, just a terrible loss there. If you're Duke this season, as talented of a team as this team has been, can't be losing to Virginia, that's for sure. And but obviously they kept it close against North Carolina, really gave them a run, but lost in double overtime, so a brutal loss there. Beat Wake Forest, lost to Louisville 23-0. That's kind of where things started to spiral a bit for this Duke team. Was I mean, it started with that Florida State game, but I mean, they kept it close against the Noles for a long time. It really started in the second half of that Florida State game. This team has just not looked the same. Your key points, Troy 11-2 after a 1-2 start. This team has caught fire. Haven't looked back. This is a team that's only gotten better this season. And honestly, I mean, the group of five really hasn't had a huge standout this season because, I mean, it probably would have been James Madison, but even they took a loss in November too. But either way, I mean, you can make an argument Troy is the best group of five team at this current point. This is a 2-loss group of five team, but both their losses came within their first 3 weeks. So the way this team has played and the way they beat App State as well in the Sun Belt Championship, this is a really solid team here in Troy that has really clicked, and it's easy to tell that over the course of this season. Very talented team in all areas, and I mean, once again, a very tough team to beat at this current point. And as for Duke, kind of the opposite once again. After a 5-1 start, they've lost 4 of 6. Mike Yelko's also gone. I mean, the head coach of this team that has really revived this team in the past couple of years. I mean, Duke's a team that was awful not too long ago. In the past couple of seasons, this team has really been improved, and they have been impressive. So not having Elko in there, Riley Leonard, Jordan Waters, the lead running back for this team is pretty shorthanded in this matchup with the transfer portal. And it's been a promising season. I feel like this is a perfect phrase for the season. It's a promising season with a polarizing finish. They really were impressive in those first 5 weeks or so, looking like a true ACC contender, and then things kind of fell apart in the second half of the season. But can they, I mean, if they can turn it around and somehow beat Troy in this matchup, that does add a bit of silver lining to what has been a good season for Duke overall. But with that, let's get a prediction here for Troy and Duke coming up here in the Birmingham Bowl. And in the end, I am going with Troy, just a matter of how much, and I do want to take the Trojans 31-17 in this matchup. Once again, you just look at both sides here. You got Troy, who's in a great situation right now. This team has never been better. They've improved a lot this season. Duke, on the flip side, is just polar opposite in my mind. I feel like for Duke, obviously being a team that kind of fell apart the second half of the season, but also, I mean, this is a short-handed team in this matchup. They've had a lot of players transfer out already, and obviously not having their head coach and Mike Elko, who's obviously had a significant part in this team the past couple of years, seeing Duke once again be a somewhat relevant program in the ACC. But I just feel like for Duke being shorthanded, a really tough second half of the season, and Troy being red hot right now, just blew out App State, which is a solid team in the Sun Belt Championship. I got to take Troy here by a couple of touchdowns. So I'll say Troy's 60% here. You could probably say 60 to 65%. I feel like Troy is definitely, feel pretty comfortable taking them in this matchup, and also the over in the end with Troy covering the spread. But with that, let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this matchup. Definitely want to keep an eye on. I feel like you got two teams obviously in interesting situations. But with that, my name's Evan. This is All Sports Central. Stay tuned for more. We'll catch you on the next one.